There was a heated blow up in the podcast world where Jillian Michaels, who you remember from shows like The Biggest Loser, she's a health advocate. She is, endorsed RFK Jr. She's correct on various subjects when it comes to human health and, nutrition and whatnot. But I feel like Jillian Michaels contributing to the political side of things has not worked in her best favor. That she is kind of like not exactly the good person to represent speaking about various issues of foreign policy and whatnot. Not saying that people can't have their own opinions on things, but I'm just saying that if, networks like CNN, MSNBC, so on and so forth, reach out to Jillian Michaels to try to get an understanding about Middle East conflicts or to talk about China or, talk about Russia and Ukraine. Like, there's various other people that are very highly credible that I consider more forefront in explaining this information in a more substantive light than Jillian Michaels. Like, I can listen to her about nutrition. I can listen to her about, the different ways that you can lose weight and, what's good for health and human stuff. But talking about foreign conflicts or taxation or historical, it just seems far out for someone like her. But this is why I bring this up. So apparently Jillian Michaels is on this show called Her Take, which you can see in the corner there. It's no different than just another adaptation of The View. Which, holy crap, how many more adaptations of The View do we need to have? Like, seriously, like, whoever thinks it's a good idea just to bring four catty women to the table and just spew it down each other's throats, screaming at each other and think that's an idea for a show? Like, how many iterations of The View do we need before we bury that idea to the ground? It was already bad when it was created, and making more shows like that doesn't help the cause. But nonetheless, that's just my personal take. Mostly because Whoopi Goldberg isn't there to fart out the truth. But here's where this went down. So it's a show called Her Take. There's Jillian Michaels. There's Anna Kasparian. There's two other people that I can't mention on the top of my head right now. But they bring up this clip here from Patrick Bet-David's podcast. And they bring up this specific tweet that someone put out there. So Patrick Bet-David, who has had Netanyahu on, who has talked about, anti-Semitism, who one of their people went after Candace Owens, went after Tucker Carlson. We kind of know the direction of where they're heading at. But one of their guests brings up this point that someone tweeted out: the journalist behind the report accusing Bibi Netanyahu offering $150 million to Charlie Kirk is Max Blumenthal, a man who used to work for the Iran-backed newspaper Al Akhbar in Beirut and contributed to Al Jazeera. Why is it that every time we track down a lie, we end up finding people connected to Qatar or Iran behind it? So they're trying to make this smear that Max Blumenthal, an American Jewish journalist, because he's writing pieces about Charlie Kirk's donors, not necessarily Israel, but just the donors to Turning Point USA, is somehow linked to a foreign country like Qatar or Iran. And they're trying to say, well, Max Blumenthal's reports were featured in Al Jazeera, and they were featured elsewhere in other publications. So that means he's definitely getting money from foreign entities. Yeah, as opposed to getting foreign money from Israel or foreign money from Saudi Arabia. Or the fact that Qatar has the largest military base of America. And Qatar gave Trump a private jet, for God's sakes. So watch this exchange and then watch the reaction that Anna Kasparian and Jillian Michaels has about this.
Who used to work for the Iran-backed newspaper Al Akhbar in Beirut and contributed
Jewish?
to Al Jazeera.
Is, yeah. I mean,
why is it every time we track down a lie, we end up finding people connected to Qatar or Iran?
There's no proof
behind
this
it?
ever happened.
So
None.
Wait, how does that debunk the fact
So
that...
he just read it.
So Patrick Bet-David's trying to use that to discredit Max Blumenthal, and now Jillian Michaels is also trying to discredit. Well, there's no proof of evidence for that. And watch the other ladies explain to her that that's not the point that we're making here. The point is the fact that you're demonizing a Jewish journalist, an American Jewish journalist from the gray zone, as being a foreign actor for another country without proof or evidence of that alone. They're making assumptions that somehow, because Max Blumenthal's publication made it to Al Jazeera, that somehow he worked for them. Oh, it made it to this outlet. So obviously it means he's getting money from a foreign country. Obviously. And Jillian Michaels is playing up to that. Oh, obviously that's discrediting the actual article, which states about his donors, Bill Ackman, and the fact that Netanyahu appeared on mainstream media shortly after Charlie Kirk's death to immediately denounce Israel's role in Charlie Kirk's assassination. And again, we have stated this before. I want to reiterate again. None of us are stating that Israel did commit the assassination. We can confirm nor deny that. But the point is to be made about the motivation behind it. That there's very predominant people, very much so on the pro-Israel side. And when Charlie Kirk, who's a very pro-Israel fanatic, until just recently had contradicting views, started to question up. He was even on Patrick Bet-David's podcast, openly discussing that Israel's a fortress, and he was having, contrary views to his own opinions, and he was starting to question things. That a lot of the donors were freaking out, and the donors of Turning Point USA turned against Charlie Kirk. That is fact. That is a fact. And that's what Max Blumenthal is pointing out. That's what Candace Owens was pointing out. That's what Tucker Carlson was pointing out. They demonized Tucker Carlson and Dave Smith, a Jewish comedian, for appearing on Turning Point USA. So that was the whole article. The article was about the donors. It wasn't a direct assault onto Israel itself, but it's about the donors. But here, watch Jillian Michaels trying to conflate it and trying to shut down the conversation. Watch this.
Where's your proof that $150 million was offered from Bibi Netanyahu?
No, I'm referring.
Where is the proof?
Please do not get any.
No, because I didn't want to cover this, and you guys insisted. And I told you, you cover this shit, I'm going to rip you apart. Where is the proof?
We're not
that
saying that it
Netanyahu
happened. We're really
offered
not
Charlie
saying that it happened.
$150 million.
Jillian,
so we're not.
So what we're reporting on is
now
people in the marketplace, what they're saying. This is a discussion that's happening literally everywhere. We would be remiss if we didn't cover it to debunk it.
Old, this conversation.
It's
over a week.
It's a week old. It's a week old. Get over yourself. Again, how's this any different than The View? It's a week old, guys. Get over it. A man got assassinated in Utah. Get over yourself. It's like Joy Behar when she talked to Bernie Sanders. Everyone keeps talking about Iraq and Afghanistan. That was years ago. Get over yourself, Bernie. Stop being anti-war. It's cool to intervene. It's cool. It's what all the popular people are doing. They're doing regime change wars. Why can't you get on board? That's their argument. It's a week old. It's so tiresome that so many journalists, so many people are pointing this out. It's crazy. Again, Jillian Michaels, I have no personal beef with when it comes to, she's very vocal about RFK Jr. and she's talked extensively about COVID, which I agree with her on those stuff. She's a health expert. So I turn to Jillian Michaels when it comes to health and, nutrition. When it comes to foreign entities and foreign affairs and diplomacy and wars or anything in that political sphere, she's completely clueless. And I don't understand why people bring her up as some sort of expert to this. It's one of those things where you kind of have to say, stay in your own lane. You're brought up as a nutritionist for a reason. Talk about RFK Jr., talk about Tylenol. You can talk about all that stuff and make a good point because you have that background, but you just doing this, it's stupid. You're embarrassing yourself. It's a week old. Get over yourself.
That
pretty prevalent.
Is a week old.
It's still going on, Jillian.
Okay, well, nevertheless, where is the proof that actually
Jillian,
happened?
I just said
Okay, well, where's the proof that a 22-year-old was able to climb the roof of an administrative building in at the Utah Valley University without CCTV cameras, showcasing how he's able to climb onto the building with this powerful rifle, this 30-06, and shoot from such a distance that a military marksman can't perform at Charlie Kirk, a lethal shot. Where's the proof on that? Because all the FBI is telling us is that, oh, we got this text chain that doesn't look legit. You read the text chain, it's just absolute gibberish. It's basically, you know, it looks like a chat bot created the text exchange between two individuals. No one talks like that. And it's basically Kash Patel going on and saying, trust me, bro. Trust me. You know, we found this note that we don't know if it is the note, but there apparently was a note. We can't look for it for ourselves because the note got, you know, misplaced somehow. But we forensically brought the note together to tell you that, yeah, this 22-year-old who apparently has a transgender roommate lover and has leftist ideology, that's who to blame for this. Where's the proof on that? Where's the proof on that? I've even stated at the beginning that I don't feel that the FBI is going to tell the truth on this because we know the FBI is pathologically lying to you. At the same time, they're telling you that Jeffrey Epstein did not, you know, exude his sex chain and trafficking to other clients. Apparently, it was to himself. They're lying to you about Epstein. They're lying to you about other things. They lied to me about January 6th. Why am I supposed to believe that they're correct when it comes to the assassination of Charlie Kirk? So where's the proof on that? Right now, anything is up in the air. That's why Max Blumenthal and so many other people are coming to these different conclusions. And you can't just dismiss that without some sort of fact-based evidence to dismiss that theory. It's just the same with COVID. People trying to dismiss, oh, you think it came from a laboratory? What are you, some sort of nutcase? You're crazy. Well, where's your proof to say that didn't? Where's your proof to say that did come from a wet market? Because there's no evidence to that. Other than the fact that Anthony Fauci, who lied to you periodically, who's a serial liar, just keeps regurgitating that. Oh, it came from a wet market. Don't look at the other suspicion. Anyway, let's hear the rest of this.
According to this guy's reporting, he was offered $150 million.
Okay, that wasn't it also corroborated by Candace?
It was corroborated by Candace, and not only that,
Candace.
by Nick.
And also
okay, because listen, I like Candace. She has, people from his own team have said he has not seen her in years.
And yet last year they were on tour together. Last year they were on tour together. So he bumped that.
And that's true. She was at Turning Point USA last year. There's flyers, there's posters. You could see social media posts that featured Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk. They were together. They were best friends. She has her own show. She's a busy woman. He's a busy man. Like trying to make the argument that, oh, they're not really friends because they haven't spoken in weeks. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. Oh, you haven't talked in a couple days? That automatically makes you not friends? Like what world do you live in where that's possible?
Wait, if you want to talk about people on his team,
time they've been on camera together was 2023.
No, it was last year. They have a talk together.
Okay, everybody
let's calm
on
down.
his team
Let's just calm down for a second.
subsequently said this is not true.
No, they never.
Colvin, Eric Bolling, all of them were like, yeah.
Okay, Eric Bolling thought that he had 2 daughters. Okay, so I'm not going to.
Okay, Andrew Colvin. The narrative is not true. Charlie has a cordial relationship with Ackman. There's no blackmail, no intervention. Nothing like what.
Andrew Colvett, who is Charlie Kirk's producer, also stated that he is apparently Man of Steel because his bones was able to stop the trajectory of a bullet. Let's not forget that. Andrew Colvett, who said he talked to the surgeon who worked on Charlie Kirk, even though there's no autopsy, even there's no medical record released about working on Charlie Kirk the day of the assassination. No medical records have been released. And that may be because Charlie Kirk's practicing religion. That could be the case. We don't know for sure. Even though it's Utah state law that they bring out an autopsy, that they do and perform. It could be Charlie Kirk's way. I don't know what the case is, but for Andrew Colvett, Charlie Kirk's own producer, to make this rhetoric about how a miracle it is that Charlie Kirk, who has bones of steel, was able to stop this bullet from further damage. Like, that's already discrediting anything else you had to say about the situation. And the fact that Andrew Colvett has been going around ferociously on the podcast world trying to defend Charlie Kirk in people saying that Charlie Kirk was criticizing Israel. No. Charlie Kirk was very pro-Israel right up to his death. There's no proof. There's no evidence. You know, people have shown hours and hours of footage. We can show you all the proof of Charlie Kirk on Megyn Kelly's show when he talked to Ben Shapiro, and Ben Shapiro freaked out about it. That, hey, if the mainstream media has lied to us about COVID and Russia and Ukraine and January 6th and all this, maybe they're not telling the truth about Israel. Have you thought of that, Ben? And Ben Shapiro went, you could see the eyebrows just like freak out because that was the big no-no. You're not allowed to question that. So Andrew Colvett is not a credible source. Let's just say that. Andrew Colvett is not a credible source. And why I'm inclined to believe someone like Candace Owens or Max Blumenthal or Tucker Carlson, for that matter, has nothing to do with anti-Semitism or, being hatred of Jewish people. No, it's because the fact that right now, we don't know who killed Charlie Kirk or for what reason. Everything's kind of up in the air. We're not knowing any factual claims because the FBI has lied to us ferociously that pretty much anyone is becoming a conspiracy theorist because no one tells us anything anymore, factually. And I'm inclined to believe them because they actually provide proof of their argument. They actually bring the receipts, as opposed to all the other people, the haters on social media, clamping down on Candace Owens, saying that she's anti-Semitic and crazy and a lunatic. Well, where's your proof? Where's your evidence? Where's your receipts? Okay, think of it like a poker game. If you're coming to the table and putting a bet down, saying that I could beat your ass in a poker game, show your cards. Let's play. Come on. You're gonna crash down on someone like me or Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens or Max Blumenthal or Jimmy Dore or Kim Iverson for bringing their cards to the table for playing the game. Then where's your cards? Where's your receipts? Where's your proof? Just don't tell me that they're anti-Semitic and then walk away. It's such bullshit. Anyway.
Andrew said that Candace and Charlie remained friends. I just want to make sure.
He's saying this is not true.
But they were literally touring together last year.
Nothing like what Candace is suggesting. What does it have to do with their friendship?
What does it have to do with you?
What does that have to do with their friendship? He's saying what Candace is suggesting.
I can't engage with you if you don't calm down.
He's saying what Candace is suggesting is not true.
He's talking about her suggesting Israel killed him. We're talking about the 100. Please do not conflate the two.
Okay. Well, unilaterally across the board now, we've got multiple accusations that all pile up to the same exact.
No, I think it's the furries. It's the furries. I think it's the furries. But a lot of people.
I don't know, and I don't look.
There's
for those who are
zero
saying
evidence to suggest none.
Okay, you're saying,
guys, can we just stop for a second? This is ridiculous.
This is absurd.
Like, this whole thing is ridiculous. There are two things being conflated right now. There are conspiracy theorists who think Israel killed Charlie Kirk. They have yet to provide a shred of evidence proving that. Done. End of story.
We're not talking about that.
I am talking about something entirely
different. You were talking about that.
No, we're not. Hold on.
Oh, you
Let
were
me
talking
finish
about
my
that.
fucking thought. Okay? The real issue here is that before most people even knew that Charlie Kirk was dead, you have Netanyahu giving multiple interviews talking about how, using the fucking moment for his own political purposes, like the fucking ghoul that he is. Let me finish my point.
Him killing Charlie Kirk.
Did I not just
said that.
I literally
so
just
now we're just gonna make
let
a
me finish
sidebar
my point, Jillian, because none of us can finish the damn point without someone else jumping down your throat. I don't think that Israel killed him because there's no evidence of that. But I had a problem with Netanyahu exploiting an assassination in this country for his own political means and purposes and lying about the nature of his relationship with Charlie Kirk. Because Charlie Kirk didn't like Netanyahu, just like any warm-blooded American shouldn't. Netanyahu is a bad guy. And he wanted to make it seem like, no, we were all great. We were good. We had a great relationship. Little did we know behind the scenes,
I don't
there
know
was a
how
lot
every
of pressure
show
toward
ends up being
Netanyahu.
about.
I mean, the most nefarious thing that came out of the aftermath of Charlie Kirk, and what enrages me so much, far beyond, people just on social media cheering Charlie Kirk's death, which I find abhorrent. I condemn people cheering for the assassination. I think that's just absolutely diabolical, which it is. The thing that I find so enraging is the people that claim that they're a friend of Charlie Kirk's or they loved and supported him, and they're using his name right now, especially people within governments right now that claim that they're a friend of Charlie Kirk's, using his name and legacy to antagonize Americans and their ability of free speech, which is the total opposite of what Charlie Kirk promoted. Okay, you can agree or disagree what you agree with Charlie Kirk on, but one thing's for sure, he was for free speech. We showed you the tweet that he was for free speech. He was for the First Amendment. That was his primary principle. That's why he brought on Tucker Carlson. That's why he brought on Dave Smith, even at a time when he was still very much pro-Israel. He brought those two on because he wanted to have a conversation. That's why he does all these debates with people. And you have Pam Bondi, you have Kash Patel, you have Dan Bongino, even Trump himself, using his name to go after their critics and claim it as hate speech, and using Charlie Kirk's name to enforce censorship. That's what pisses me off. And I don't know Charlie Kirk. I don't support him. I've never met him personally. But it would enrage someone. Say I was dead and they made a memorial about me, or there was a funeral about me, and someone decided, hey, in the name of Jason Kitz, who unfortunately passed, we're going to take his legacy and everything we know about him and use it to enforce digital ID on Canadians. I was never for it. I've been a fighter against it. I've been very, very vocal about how awful it is. But for someone to take that, if I died, and someone to take that and use it for their advantage, that is disgusting. And that's what Netanyahu did. That's what Trump is doing right now. That's what Pam Bondi is doing right now. And everyone's calling out their asses. That's what all this is really about. And that's what Anticonspirian's even mentioning here. Of course, Jillian Michaels goes right through her head. Maybe talk about, protein powders. Let's have a conversation about that, because clearly she doesn't know up from down.
How do we bash Israel? This is not for me. I am not interested in this.
Okay,
I know.
I'm
sorry.
Let's be good. Let's be good about precious Israel. Let the country committing a genocide. Yeah. Okay.
Zero. I think you guys are great. I fundamentally disagree with you about every show doing this. I'm sorry.
Cool. So can we continue the conversation?
Yeah. Let's.
Okay.
Finish the last topic.
All right. Wow. Okay, guys.
So she walked off the stage because she doesn't really have an argument. And people are trying to make the case. And that's, again, we don't know for sure what's happening with the investigation. We know that the FBI completely manufactured the narrative to think that a 22-year-old was capable of doing this and trying to pin this on leftist ideology, which I didn't believe from the start. And every single time they appear on camera or try to regurgitate any of the rhetoric or try to provide evidence, it just further exposes the sham. So anything's really up in the air, and that's why people are having these so-called conspiratorial thoughts, or they're coming conspiracy theorists, because if we're not being told the truth about this investigation, then it really comes down to us to investigate it and look at all aspects. And that's why I said it's important to have the discussion about Israel and the impact of it, because I'm not saying it's possible that Israel committed the atrocity, but we're trying to figure out if that was possibly the motivation behind it. Because we know there's a large amount of donors to Turning Point USA. They're very pro-Israel. We know that there's very pro-Israel fanatics in the crowds at Turning Point USA, at these events, at college campuses. Anything is possible. Anything is relative. Anything is possible to this investigation. And that's why Max Blumenthal, that's why Tucker Carlson, that's why Candace Owens, that's why Jimmy Dore, that's why Kim Iverson, that's why myself are looking into all these aspects, because we don't know for sure, but we have to include all this information into this investigation as possible ways of motive and possibly who the suspect could intentionally be. That's why it's so important to have this conversation. But of course, Jillian Michaels just walks out of that podcast, and she goes on to James Lee's show to then complain about it. So James Lee says Jillian Michaels explains her decision to quit Her Take podcast after her co-hosts Anna Kasparian, Amy Dangerfield, and Lindy Lee insinuated Israel may have killed Charlie Kirk. I do not want a show that just bashes Israel. Now is not the time. But that's not what they were doing. That's not what they're doing. They were saying that it was suspicious that Benjamin Netanyahu was on mainstream media shortly after the shot was taken at Charlie Kirk and his body was still warm, that he went on to Fox News and immediately denounced Israel's involvement. That's a little suspicious. That's a little chaotic. And it's also chaotic to know that prior to Charlie Kirk's assassination, you've seen all the proof, you've seen all the video coverage of Charlie Kirk starting to criticize and starting to question his loyalty, his support, his pledge to Israel. That he didn't feel that Netanyahu he didn't support Netanyahu, that he didn't support the motivation behind this genocide. And he talked about how the last time he went to Israel was like a fortress. He told that to Patrick Bet-David. So they're trying to conflate this as some sort of Israel bashing. But here's what she said to James Lee about it.
You knew I wasn't cool with it. You knew I wasn't comfortable. You misled me about how you were going to represent it. And I'm out.
Netanyahu is a bad guy. And he wanted to make it seem like, no, we were all great. We were good. We had a great relationship. Little did we know behind the scenes, there was a lot of pressure toward
ends up being about this. Is
sorry.
I'm just going to skip this part.
Cool.
We've already seen this. Okay.
Couple days ago, right? I saw your thing, and I saw Anna's response.
I'm happy to talk about that.
And it seems like
I will
freedom of
happily
speech
discuss that with
thing.
you. Let's discuss that. So let me be very clear. I'm responsible for the content on that show. PBD was like, you are responsible. And so at this point, I was saying, guys, this has been covered a week ago. This is the first day of Rosh Hashanah. We're going to look like assholes doing this literally the day after they buried the man. There are plenty of things to focus on.
Again, she goes right to, this was covered last week, okay? The first day of Rosh Hashanah, shut up. Don't talk anymore about this. Shut up. Let's bash more Democrats. Can we not find a transgender to bash? Let's talk about those lefty lunatics again. And we're talking about an assassination on American. That we don't know who did it, why they did it. And I don't think we'll ever really know who did it or why they did it because of the secrecy, because of some sort of operation, some sort of blackmail and deceit. Just like how we're never going to know about JFK, how we're never going to know about 9/11, how we're not able to know about this. That's why people become conspiracy theorists. That's why people develop these, thoughts and ideas, and they showcase it and highlight it, and people think they're crazy and lunatic because we are not being told the truth about things. And we've been lied to. We've been propagandized for years. That a lot of these people are just trying to find answers. They're trying to find a pathway that could potentially lead us to an answer. That's the point of an investigation. That's the point of having these reports. It's not to penalize a country or go after certain or whatever the case may be. It's to find a pathway that could result in maybe potentially finding out the motivation behind Charlie Kirk's assassination and who potentially killed him. That could be that ultimately is why they're doing this. But so many people are trying to antagonize us. Oh, they're being anti-Semitic. They're constantly bashing Israel. Constantly. It's been a week, okay? Just shut up, guys. And the reason she's saying is because Jillian Michaels has no argument. She has no evidence to back her claim. She has nothing. So her only solution is to just go after people that bring this up and say, shut up. That's it. That's all she has. And just like a lot of people on social media trying to bash Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, shut up. You're not allowed to talk about this thing. Okay, well, who do you think did it? Bring your evidence. Bring your cards. You want to rumble? Let's rumble.
You know, the gun being disassembled. Like, what's weird about the text messages? This guy who was apparently at 9/11.
Right.
You want to focus on that. And they insisted on doing it. All of them insisted on doing it. And then when Lindy and Amy tried to make the case for it, I was appropriately stunned because I had completely contradictory conversations. And as mentioned, when Anna came out, because I said, I do not want another show that just bashes Israel. This is not the time. And she's like, no. There's no evidence for this. Absolutely. You say that. I was like, I think this endangers Jewish people. I think this is irresponsible. By all means, Jill, say that.
Can you separate out, do you think you can separate out Israel from Jewish culture,
For me,
religion?
personally, of course. I actually think a healthy criticism of Netanyahu and his
No, you don't.
party, that is...
She's saying she takes healthy criticism against Netanyahu and Israel. No, she doesn't. We just saw you walk out the minute it was mentioned. Oh, I take criticism very healthily. By telling others to just shut up. It's a week ago. Like you guys just keep bashing about this country. You keep doing this, and Max Blumenthal, right? Clearly, you don't take criticism well. You should do what Whoopi Goldberg does. Just, let one rip. Cover up the truth.
Totally different.
Justified.
Yeah.
And different. I also think a healthy criticism of October 7th and,
the stuff that Charlie was talking about.
All of the things that, right, is, but where is the balance?
I think Anna is one of these good faith people who are
Anna,
not pointing towards Jewish people. They're pointing towards like a government that's
I think Anna has gone down a rabbit hole a little bit.
But I wouldn't bring it up if I bring up a segment and says there's no credibility to this, then I shouldn't be bringing it up. I would only bring it up and say, hey, I think this is something to look at here, guys.
As mentioned, she comes out and she's like, okay, there's no evidence, but Netanyahu's disgusting and look at the way he responds. And I was like, we're done. I'm done.
Do you feel like you could work with these people again?
But again, what would be the argument if you're saying Anna Kasparian is wrong in her criticism that Netanyahu's appearing on American media purposely to denounce Charlie Kirk's assassination to cover it up? Then why would Netanyahu be on American media shortly after Charlie Kirk's assassination? What is your take of it? Because even as I stated, it just seems weird that a foreign prime minister, a leader of another nation, goes onto American media to immediately comment on the assassination of an American. It seems weird. Like, what about the president of Thailand? You want to bring them on and have a conversation? That would even seem weird. It just seems baffling that you bring on a foreign dignitary to comment on American assassination and try to denounce his country's any involvement into this. It just seems so perplexed. Why would you do that? You didn't reach out to his family. You didn't contact his parents. You don't want to reach out to friends of his, but you went right to Netanyahu. So what else would it be? What else would there be for Fox News to reach out to Netanyahu to comment on American assassination? What would be the purpose of it?
The show's not done, right?
I don't actually know. To be dead honest with you, I won't be participating.
So now she said, I won't be participating. So she's done with the show. Wow. Well, one thing's for sure. Never ever do The View style podcast. That's for one thing. I can't believe you get to see more interpretations of that garbage. Just doesn't work in favor. And the other thing is, Jillian Michaels, again, she can say the right thing about nutrition and health and stuff like that, and weight loss. She spoke about COVID to Bill Maher, and she's supportive of RFK Jr. You could talk about that. I can listen to Jillian Michaels' conversation about that because she knows a thing or two about that. But for her to try to dismiss, a foreign country's involvement in American affairs, especially when an American gets assassinated and the leader of a foreign country goes onto American media to immediately denounce it and to say that Israel was not involved in any way, and, try to make the comparison of Joseph Goebbels and how people are criticizing me and why people think I'm suspicious. I'm just on Fox News. I'm just chilling with you guys. I'm just going on to Newsmax. I'm going on to these other media empires in America to denounce that Israel took part of anything. Again, as we stated before, we're not accusing Israel of committing the action. But what we're trying to figure out, and why it's so important to have this conversation, is possibly the motivation behind it. That while everyone's trying to pin the lefty, lunatic, transgender ideology as suspect to Charlie Kirk's death, which I don't believe one bit, because why did they pick September 10th at Utah to commit that action? Just doesn't make any sense to me. And also, Charlie Kirk is very moderate in comparison to a lot of different people when it comes to the trans ideology and debating that. And the other factor of this is why would a foreign country jump on to American media to send his regards and try to denounce involvement of this, and then also state that, Charlie Kirk is a friend of Israel. Charlie Kirk's a friend of Israel. He would never, speak out against us and to suspect us involving the assassination. It seems so preposterous. And then trying to associate that with, lefty lunacy and jihadists and so much other crap. But it could be his donors. It could be people, again, as I stated, he had beef with highly influential people in America who are donating to 200 Point USA. So they could be suspect of this. It could also be a pro-Israeli American that didn't like Charlie Kirk turning the other cheek. It could be anybody at this point. That's why it's so important to have this conversation, and for anyone just to walk out and try to dismiss it and say, you're spreading anti-Semitism, it's just crap. You're crap. You're garbage. Shut up. Anyone that keeps stating that without bringing evidence of their own to back the argument, you're the ones that are being embarrassed. Not Candace Owens, not Tucker Carlson, because at least they bring their receipts to back their arguments. You don't have to agree with their assumptions or conclusions, but acknowledge the fact that, hey, they brought some evidence. They have pictures, they have photographs, they have tweets, they have text messages, they have all this information that could back their analysis. As opposed to majority of the podcast world and Twitter and the people criticizing, just telling you to shut up. Like, you're not allowed to even have a conversation about the assassination and investigate who did it. Which is very, very suspicious. Just saying.